Hey folks, this is Joe Joseph, and this is your daily Sheeple.com daily news brief. Wow, it just keeps on keeping on with Hillary Clinton. And, you know, things are going to get more miserable for her and more miserable. I would like to invite everybody out there to go to the Daily Sheeple YouTube channel and check out one of the little minute and a half, 2-minute videos I put out with regard to Bev Harris and blackboxvoting.org. I've been hitting this hard because I see a lot of people out there that are talking about how hopeful they are that things are going to be okay, that there's just going to be so much overwhelming support for Trump that it's going to force him into the presidency. And again, when you watch the videos that she has on her website that show how they can manipulate the vote, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how far behind or how far ahead anybody is. They can do it any way they want, at any time they want. It takes them about 20 seconds to do it. And they do it remotely to the central tabulator machine. Just watch the video. And if you haven't seen her award-winning movie, HBO documentary called Hacking Democracy, please, I invite you to please watch that, as it is extremely telling. And again, a lot of people out there, everybody out there wants justice. I know it. Even the people that are staunchly for Hillary Clinton deep in their hearts want some sort of justice, whether it be misguided or not. It doesn't matter. The fact is that people are just so sick of being kind of used and abused, for lack of a better term. And that is, you know, that they'll basically support anybody that's not a Clinton or a Bush, you know. And Trump, yeah, he talks a real good game. He's got a real good contract. And who knows, he could possibly be the second coming of Ronald Reagan or something even better. I don't know. But I can tell you that he has such a momentous hill to climb and has such treachery and has such corruption to overcome that we need to get this out there now and disseminate it far and wide, because it's the only way that you're going to get any sort of real vote out there, is if you can get your municipalities to lock things down prior to the election. And unfortunately, a lot of the election commissioners out there are on the pay. They're on the dole. Okay? I think it was Newt Gingrich back in 1994 or so that said it would cost roughly $500 million at that time. So probably close to $2 billion, but that's chump change to these people, right? About $2 billion today, $500 million back in 1994 to buy every state and local official in the United States. You know, when you talk about trillions of dollars being spent on wars, illegal wars, and things like that, it doesn't really, it's chump change. So a momentous, huge mountain to climb here. And the more tools that you can give people to make informed decisions, to understand what they're up against, and to put pressure on these election commissioners, the better off everybody will be. Of course, I still say that to participate in a broken system, you're only perpetuating the problem. And the best way to solve the problem is non-participation. Take a look at France. Take a look at what happens when the truckers just decide not to go to work. Yeah, mayhem and chaos ensue, and it forces change because you hit them in the wallet. That's what they do to us. They hit us in the wallet, so why not hit them back? That's how you do it. TheWeek.com had a great article today. The Clinton presidency is going to be a miserable slog, by Michael Dougherty. I want to read this real quick because I think it's very relevant. It says, being on the cusp of electing the first woman president, and remember, I said voter fraud. It doesn't matter how far ahead Trump is in the poll. I truly believe he is not going to overcome the voter fraud that's going to take place. But, hey, I could be surprised. And I'm certainly not clairvoyant. I'm not a Swami. I can't read the future, predict the future. I just know what's happened in the past. And normally, if you pay attention and you're a student of history, You can see what the future holds. But it says, being on the cusp of electing the first woman president and defeating a snarling, newly crass and nationalist Republican Party should feel energizing for the American left. But it's been tiring. The Democrats aren't just electing a woman. They're stuck electing this woman, Hillary Clinton, and it's been a slog. Clinton could not easily put away her socialist challenger, Bernie Sanders, and she would not release the transcripts of the paid speeches she gave to Wall Street banks, and she could not name her accomplishments as Secretary of State. She could not quite escape her own role in managing the political fallout from her husband's affairs, or the appearance of corruption in the Clinton Foundation's pioneering work in the field of do-gooder graft. Now, when FBI Director James Comey gave us a healthy reminder of Clinton's email scandals last week, liberals must have realized it's not just a campaign. The Clinton presidency is going to be a slog, too. The Clinton standard of political behavior has always had a lawyerly slipperiness to it. When the scandals come, it depends on the definition of is. When the headlines erupt, suddenly we discover that all the Clintons' friends signed an affidavit contradicting the latest accuser or whistleblower. And really, what difference at this point does it make? Partisans will note that Clinton's ethical lapses and faults are minor compared to Donald Trump's. Those comparisons are not going to matter in a few days. Some may object, and they'll reply that the only problem is the aggressive prosecutorial zeal of the Republicans. And it's true that Republicans have an ongoing grudge against Clinton. As a matter of fact, most people do. But let's posit the existence of a vast right-wing conspiracy that hates President Obama just as much as it hates the Clintons. Why is it only able to turn up news-driving scandals on the latter? Could it be that Obama, however detested by conservatives, conducts himself with higher ethical standards than Bill and Hillary? Clinton scandals and misdeeds often have little to do with the Democrats' battle with Republicans. Clinton played fast and loose, even with the Obama administration's rules. Obama had forbidden Clinton from giving a government job to the Clintons' on-demand schemer Sidney Blumenthal, yet Clinton kept him on the payroll of her charity and kept up correspondence with him about Libya, even as he had business interest in a post-Gaddafi state. Despite explicit rules set by the Obama administration, the Clinton Foundation continued to operate as a bank in which foreign leaders and governments could deposit their quids, while Clinton was at the head of the State Department, able to distribute pro quos in return. And beyond the propensity to generate scandal, there's a larger reason that the Clinton administration will be a slog. The 2016 election has been characterized by a demand for great change. And Hillary Clinton is run as a defender of the way things are, and the way they're going to and probably be post-2016. Hillary Clinton received a vigorous challenge from a left wing that isn't afraid to label themselves socialists. An American center-right party ditched its commitments to establishment doctrine on free trade and liberalized immigration and challenged the wisdom and justice of America's post-Cold War political order. But Hillary Clinton will enter the White House as the caretaker for the status quo in American political life. Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders were not the men to carry forward this message of discontent to real political triumph. Both candidates represented their cause poorly. Trump was once too crude and unethical himself, and Sanders has none of the political instincts and savvy to really go after the Clintons in the primary. Clinton is the face of a prosperous, grasping establishment that won't bear challenge from the left or right. Her ability to survive scandal after scandal will not be received as some testament to her political canniness or some deeper integrity. It'll be received as just the system defending its own from attack. Her survival and her ability to win is a tribute to the power and the self-regard of our political class. And this class has no plausible solution for the nation's foreign policy, for its immigration system, or for its economic system that abets the elite's secession from their own nation. Clinton's presidency will be a slog because she is exactly like the system she defends. She can point to the great wealth this system produces for the top clients, but neither she nor her cheerleaders can really claim that it looks like wisdom or justice to anyone else. And he's right, you know? And I disagree with Trump having ethical lapses and perhaps being too crass. I think people are clamoring for somebody real to come forward, somebody that just doesn't parrot the talking points of the powers that shouldn't be. I truly feel that. And it's unfortunate that somebody like him or like Ron Paul in 2012 and 2008 weren't given a fair shot. And Trent, you gotta understand that no matter how things go, Trump will not get a fair shot. It's just not going to happen. Whether you like him or not, it's not going to happen. And the police state will continue to go the way it is, to ratchet down on people. As a matter of fact, Activist Post is reporting that the feds are ramping up their Real ID bullying tactics. A lot of people don't even know what Real ID is. But here pretty soon, it could affect a lot of people. According to Activist Post, the federal government ratcheted up its game of chicken with states over Real ID last month, threatening once again to ban residents of non-compliant states from using their driver's license as IDs to clear TSA checkpoints. On October 13th, the Department of Homeland Security sent letters to 5 states denying their request for a time extension to bring their driver's licenses in compliance with Real ID. So that means that in 2018, residents of Oklahoma, Kentucky, Maine, Pennsylvania, and South Carolina may find themselves on a virtual no-fly list because they'll need to have alternate IDs, such as a passport, in order to clear TSA screening. Now, the 5 states join Minnesota, Missouri, and Washington already under the DHS gun, and these agencies, the agency has already denied these states the extension request last year. So in practice, Real ID co-opts the states into creating a national ID system, because remember, there was a big push for a national ID, and everybody pushed back. They don't want it because the federal government doesn't have a constitutional mandate or authority to do something like that. So what do? They hold federal funding over the state's head like a carrot and say, if you don't do this, if you don't institute this, we're going to pull your funding. And we're going to piss off the citizens of your state because they won't be able to fly with their driver's license, which is asinine in and of itself. Under the act, all 50 states were supposed to comply with the federal law by 2009, but states rebelled against Real ID for several reasons, including privacy concerns and the fact that Congress didn't provide any funding for the mandates it expected states to implement. Some states passed laws expressly prohibiting implementation of the act. To date, 27 states remain non-compliant, nullifying the national ID system in effect. Some of them have outright nullified the law. Of course, in the United States, we have something called jury nullification. Well, there's also, if something is unconstitutional or violates states' rights, a state can nullify that law as well. Something that a lot of people don't know. So here is another thing that they're doing, trying to enact a national ID system by proxy. And you got states pushing back. So now they're saying, okay, fine. You do that. Well, then, your citizens aren't going to be able to fly because they've got their Gestapo, TSA now, running the show at airports. That's another thing, by the way, that airports can opt out of. They don't have to have the TSA there. They choose to have the TSA there. You can have a private contractor come in and do airport security. It does not have to be TSA. See, these are all things that if people know and you inform them, they tend to make better decisions. They'll ratchet up pressure. You would hope so. You would hope that the apathy subsides a little bit, and maybe once people are armed with the knowledge, they'll actually put it to use. Who knows? I can tell you a lot of people are putting knowledge to use. According to the Washington Post, the number of homeschool students have doubled since 1999. I am a huge homeschool proponent. We homeschool our children. My oldest son is a graduate of homeschool. He's infinitely more mature than his counterparts and his friends that did not homeschool. His maturity level, his ability to grapple with real life events, to deal with day-to-day things, how to run a household. These are pivotal things that you don't learn in a public school environment. And especially now as more homes have become broken, parents rely on public schools to actually be like almost surrogate parents. And it's failed miserably. In 1953, When the Department of Health, Education, and Welfare was established in the United States under the Truman administration, the United States was far and away number one in the world when it came to science and math. In 2012, we were 31st in the world, even though we were pouring in and continue to pour in billions and billions of dollars into what? A broken system. Here we go again. Another showcase of what happens when you continue to participate in a broken system. All you do is perpetuate the problem. Just like the elections, when you participate in the election process and you know it's broken, all you're doing is continuing to provide it legitimacy. But if everybody sat on their hands and didn't go on election day, guess what would happen? It would be an illegitimate election. There would be no legitimacy to it. That's why you have everybody clamoring for mandatory voter laws. That's why you have it in other countries like Australia. Because people realize that it's illegitimate. So they enacted a law forcing you to have to go do it. How is that legitimate? It makes no sense. Think about the benefits. Now, homeschooling is not easy, but the benefits over time are clearly measurable. And in the end, and again, we have experience with this, you won't regret it a single bit. Man, it's hard. It can be hard at times, no doubt. A lot of parents send their kids to school just to get a break. You know, with homeschooling, you don't get a break. It's 24/7. But I'm telling you, in the end, you will be infinitely satisfied to know that your children will have the life tools, the necessary life tools to be able to weather the storm of real life. And believe me, the storm's getting a lot worse. The numbers have doubled, according to the Washington Post. 1.8 million U.S. children were homeschooled in 2012, more than double that number were homeschooled since 1999. Estimated number of homeschool children represent 3.4% of U.S. student population between the ages of 5 and 17. And it's not just rural areas. It's split kind of evenly. You got a third for rural, you got a third in the suburbs, you got a third in the cities. So it's equally distributed. But the interesting thing is, there are less people that do it because of a moral or religious standpoint. And there's more people that are doing it just because they don't want their children introduced to prison culture. And look at what's happening at schools. You know, now they have to go through metal detectors. Now they have these drills that take place, lockdown drills, where they have drug-sniffing dogs go in. What does drug-sniffing dogs have to do with a freaking terrorist attack? Ever wonder that? The police that roam the hallways at schools, I would think they're called RSOs. This is not things I want my child subjected to. I want them to learn. When we were making the decision to homeschool our children, I kind of did a time study into how much time they actually spend learning each day. Now, in the state of Virginia, they have something called the Standards of Learning. It's a standardized testing system that they have in place that basically keeps them in compliance with the No Child Left Behind program. And this, in turn, is how schools get their federal funding. Again, everything's tied to federal funding. This is how Common Core got enacted. If you don't do it, we're going to hold this over your head. Fact is, they spent on average 2.8 hours a day learning. The rest of the time, study periods. Things like gym class, which I'm sure is important, but certainly doesn't have to do with learning. And testing. I couldn't believe how much testing took place. They were testing to prepare for the tests. And then what would happen is you'd have teachers send your child home with 4 and 5 hours of homework a night. And this was at the time for an elementary school child. The child did not have the ability to be a child. He went to school to test all day and came home, and then we were ending up homeschooling him anyway because we would have to teach him everything the teachers couldn't teach him because they didn't have time to teach it. So they would just send it home as homework. So he pulled him out. And wouldn't you know it, after a year, here's the key. And I'm going to end this with I've actually got a funny story too. You teach your child how to learn. Once you unlock how your child learns and how he or she is wired, they in turn will start to teach themselves. You provide them the information. You provide them the coursework. Once you figure out how they're wired, are they more artistically driven? Are they, like a science and math guru? What is it that makes them tick? Once you figure that out, I promise you, it just becomes self-pace-a-palooza. Now, that doesn't mean you're not involved. You have to be involved. But I can tell you, from a resource standpoint, there are endless resources for you on the internet now to be able to homeschool your kid more than ever before. It is so important that you go ahead and do the research into it. And if you can do it, great. If you can't, a lot of people can't. The economy's at the point where a lot of parents have to, both parents have to work, and you're not able to do it because of childcare. And that's just the case. But as much as you can do it, do it. You won't be disappointed. Final story of the night. Hospital patient seriously burnt after farting during cervix surgery and causes laser to burst into flames. Folks, if by any chance you have to go into surgery, take a Beano before you go under the laser. And we'll end it with that. I'm Joe Joseph. This has been your dailysheeple.com Daily News Brief. I will see you all tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.